Hello and welcome to episode 3, season 2 of Layback with Betfair. Miles Pfitzner filling in for Tom Haylock, and what a pleasure to be joined by Dave Strehlau, who haven't met yet, and now we have in person. Dave, lovely to meet you, mate.
Great to be here, mate.
Yeah, great to be here. Hey, I'm looking forward to this.
I'm in the presence of greatness.
No. Look, I did see a couple of comments on Twitter that said that there might be any bathwater left after this, but they might be pretty accurate, especially if we can find a few winners. Dave, we've got the lay-bin, we've got the Makybe Diva coming up, the run to the Rose as well. We'll go up to Rosehill. Interested in a weekend's racing where potentially we're going to have maybe some rain-affected tracks?
Yeah, well, you know, Flemington's currently rated a 6, Rosehill's a 5, but there's rain around over the next few days. So I'd be setting up for both tracks to be in that soft 6/7 range. And you don't want absolute mudlarks, but you know, they're going to be getting their toe in across Saturday for sure in those main metro meets.
One I want to kick off. I love the lay-bin, especially with Tommy, and we do it on Sundays as well on SEN. But the lay-bin here, I've seen what you've actually noted here, and I really want to talk about this. The first one, though, unbelievable the size of bets that were placed on this horse at the short quote.
Yeah, so we're talking about I Am Caviar, who went around on Wednesday. What day did it go around?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, sorry, at Moe. Yeah, and the two things I want to put in the lay-bin. One, just people. I'm calling it tall hoofy syndrome. So
tall hoofy syndrome.
So in Australia we've got tall poppy syndrome. As soon as something gets to the top, we just want to slice it down. So this horse, it hadn't even been to the top yet, but obviously by I'm Invincible, the mother Black Caviar, everyone just wanted it to lose. It seemed on social media like people were lining up for him to lose, so then they could just sink the boot into breeding, the stable and everything. Like people were salivating at the fact that he went down at such short odds. I'm not sure why everyone wanted it to lose, but you know, that just means that the bookies had a fill up, like you mentioned.
Did you see some of them, you bet ticker with some of them? There were bets there, 5, 6,000 at $1.10, $1.15. I mean, we say gamble responsibly, call 1-800-858-858, but fair income, that's the silly stuff at those sort of quotes.
Yeah, well, hey, the Betfair layers would have had a picnic with that on the exchange. And, you know, I think it started around $1.24 and it opened $1.10. So not much liability to go into laying a horse like that, you know, on debut, Moe, wet track. But the other thing I want to lay, though, I've met the owners of Black Caviar. In fact, I sponsored a race at Sandown one day and their horse Sessions Road won and they bred it at home and they're lovely people. But the ingenuity in terms of naming the horse.
I'm Invincible.
I am
caviar.
Like, come on.
Yeah, I am fish eggs.
Give us something.
It's not very creative, really, is it?
No, it's not.
They could have thought of something a bit better. The lay-bin as well for me, races starting on time in Queensland. I've got a big thing on this. Wednesday meetings, Sunday meetings especially, 2 minutes past they start. It's almost on cue that they only start loading when the race time hits. So it's not we load to then jump on race time. It's like, whoops, right, it's race time now. Right, let's call them up. It's sort of, I don't know why they've always done it, but Queensland specifically always seem to take their time in loading the horses.
They have traditionally run late. Recently, on Saturdays, one of the major states has made a good habit of running late. It might be just to boost turnover, might be just to stuff the schedule of the rest of the country, but 3 initials there running that state, I think that might be a plan, but maybe it's seeped into Queensland as well. But they need to boost the turnover because it's on the fritz up there, isn't it, since the new POC taxes come in and the bookies are not liking what's going on up there.
Well, it's about to change. That'll be another lay-bin for another day. It's about to change in South Australia again too. So they're in big trouble there in South Australia. That'll go in the lay-bin for another day. Salts, I want to get stuck into the racing here. We go to Flemington. We've got the Group 1 Makybe Diva, the ELLSBERG Stakes. I'm pretty keen to sort of play on the weekend. Do you want to get stuck straight into it? And we'll go to race 5, the Group 1 Makybe Diva over the mile. Incentivised last year, won. Mwanga running second, Sir Dragonet ran third. And most of these horses come into this race second up out of the Memsey.
Yeah, it's a good horses race, isn't it? And the rail's true at Flemington. We spoke about the fact that it'll probably be a 6 or a 7, but there's just a bit of a gentle southwesterly as well. So I don't expect the wind to have any impact. I expect the track to play fair. And this is an absolutely fascinating race. It's a race where I'm I'm a bit inclined to sit on the fence. Like, I don't want to dive in and lay anything. I don't want to take a huge set against something. I know a lot of the mappers and people are keen to be against I'm Thunderstruck, and I can see their perspective. He's a big horse. He needs room. He's probably not going to get that from barrier 1, and he might get dictated to. And we'll talk about the map for this particular race in a little bit more detail coming up. But it is a fascinating race. How much more improvement does Western Empire? I know you got huge raps on him, and
most people know that I've got huge raps on him.
And the market is respecting what he's done in WA as well, and respecting the fact that he could get back there. He was well back first up in the Memsey, but he was off a long break, so obviously just needed the run.
The yard watchers were telling me that most of these Cerise and White horses with Danny O'Brien are a bit soft, and they need that one run to roll in. We've got a few we're going to talk about later, but I wasn't too disappointed with him in the Memsey. I know that we saw Cascadian and I'm Thunderstruck sort of push on it and flash late, but Snapdancer really got its own way all out in front and pushed away. But Western Empire, I think, going second up here. Damien Lade from a decent draw. The second up record's pretty good. 2 from 3 at the trip, Western Empire, and we know he can get it done from anywhere from a mile up to 2,400 after he won the WA Derby. So I'm with him. Western Empire, but I'm not ruling out something like a Cascadian. How he ran on last start, he goes second up again. But I don't know. I'm probably looking to risk I'm Thunderstruck from the inside draw and soft. What about you?
Well, it's an interesting one because he's run I'm Thunderstruck. He's won the fastest last 600 of the race in the Memsey. Now he gets to the Makybe Diva, Flemington, 1,600 metres. You think, oh, geez, he gobbles that up, but he's the one that had the momentum. You know, Cascadian was held up a bit. He actually ran the fastest last 200 metres of the race, Cascadian. And we want to talk about the speed map and where I'm Thunderstruck gets to. I've got him mapped to actually settle on the leader's back. Now, when you think of how he's been settling in the past, you'd think, okay, leader's back, Flemington, bigger track, it's a positive. But the negative for him is Alligator Blood will go forward and lead. I think that Western Empire doesn't have any other option than to go and park outside.
Yeah.
Alligator Blood. And the fact that it's going to be a moderate tempo, because there's no real natural leader other than Alligator Blood, who's gone forward in the past. He didn't do that in his Queensland preparation, but he's gone forward in the past, TC booked. He goes forward again. That just means there's no tempo. And if you've got Alligator Blood leading and Western Empire sitting outside the lead, when you're sitting on the leader's back, what you need the one outside the leader to roll off and come under pressure. Now, if Alligator Blood and Western Empire are both as good a horses as the market thinks they are, and they've proven in the past, well, they'll just keep dueling it out and he'll have nowhere to go. And that's the issue. So who settles outside him as well is a little bit important too. It's either going to be non-conformist or Mo'unga. One of those two will settle outside I'm Thunderstruck in the 1-1, and just how well they're going will dictate to whether or not he could get out. But I reckon the people that are against him are thinking that he's going to be the leader's back. There's 2 good horses in front and outside the leader, and he's just going to be dictated to with no galloping room.
Is there a few we can put a line through here? She's Ideal, I think we can put a line through. Non-conformist. Mo'unga's not going well enough. I mean, Regal Power's the one that has rolled Western Empire, goes second up again. Cerise and White, Oliver, draws okay. He's got his Group 1 performed. I'm Thunderstruck, Cascadian, and then Western Empire. There's probably 4 you could rule out and 4 you can put in.
Well, the one I can rule out definitely is Mo'unga. Okay, I don't think he wants to be there anymore. He paraded poorly first up. He was scratched last week. He just didn't savage the line. Once he got out, he was held up, not sure how well he was going. She's Ideal. I wouldn't be surprised if she ran on. She can produce a sprint fresh. Second up last preparation, 1,600 metres. She's nearly knocked off Very Elegant and gone past Mo'unga as well. So fascinating race. Interesting to see how it turns out.
Certainly is. We'll talk about the speed map in a while, and we're getting the hurry up here because it looks like we've spent a bit too long on the Makybe Diva. We'll go to race. I don't want to get in trouble.
It's the best race of the weekend.
I don't want to get in trouble on my first day here or filling in for you. Tommy will get stuck into me. Let's go to race 7. This is the Let's Elope Stakes over the 1,400, and well, this sees probably one of my better bets of the day here, and Kiss on All Four Cheeks. Swap from the Morton Yard now to Nick Ryan. Goes second up here. I was following this horse the entire time. Last prep, and when it came out, it's come out of the cockroom here, but when it came out and won that Group 3 in March, I was really impressed with him. So I'm with her, should I say, with Kiss on All Four Cheeks. There's some good horses in here, though. Flying Mascot. We're also seeing a horse like Yearning, which comes back after winning 1,000 guineas. Even Steinem hasn't been the worst. Foxy Frida for Andrew Noblet. How are you seeing this one?
Yeah, it's a good race, and you got to respect that Nick Ryan yard. They are flying, and they can get them ready. And when they're hard in the market, look out. But I'm a little bit against Kiss on All Four Cheeks just because of the way that she went past Flying Mascot last start. I thought she had every chance to do so. And I know Caulfield only has one bend, 1,200 metres, but it's still not ideal like Flying Mascot did to sit 3 wide without any cover first up, 1,200 metres. I thought she stuck on really well. If you have a look at this race, the way it maps, Lady of Honour just goes forward. Flying Mascot tags it, and where else does the speed come from? I think it'll be on pace, dictated 1,400 metres. She's jumping out beautifully on heavy tracks in the lead into this preparation, Flying Mascot. So I don't think the soft ground will hold any issues. I think she'll run well second up, and I'm going to back her. I'm going to have a little something on Fortunate Kiss. Now, she's got no ratings to put her in the market, no speed data really put her in the market, so she's a big price, but I think she could do something second up. She ran the third fastest last 200 metres of the race, first up at Caulfield behind Uncommon James against the boys. Now she's back to mare's grade. She's jumped out between runs, and she jumped out on the bunny, sat outside the leader. For a horse that went back 1,100 metres last start, jump out between runs, 1,400 at Flemington, barrier 7. I think she'll go forward, get a nice tag as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see her finish off at a big price.
Yeah, Kiss on All Four Cheeks for me and the tiny nibble on Yearning. Have to stay with Yearning. Let's go to the Bobby Lewis quality. Look, this is a race that's wide open here. Shooting for Gold has to be respected, especially how it came out and won last start. Gets in here with a 54.5. The awkward draw, though, in gate 17. The one I'm happy to risk here is Swats That, and the only reason being is the first up record isn't superb, and neither is the record at the track for 8 starts for 3 seconds and a third. So I'm looking to risk Swats That here. How are you seeing the Bobby Lewis?
Yeah, well, some of those first uppers are in Group 1 quality. You know, this is, with due respect to the Bobby Lewis this weekend, it's not the same class as some of those races. I'm not going to have a bet in the race, but what's fascinating, I know Tommy loves looking at the ratings. Like, she's in very well, Swats That. She's 105 rated. She's got 55 kilos. She's $5.50. You got Varen Scova, who was superb, 1,100 metres, Flemington in a benchmark 78. Last start, she's a 76 rated. She's got 53 kilos. So she's horrifically in, but what she's done on the clock, Varen Scova, she could win. I thought Swats That is jumping out like a bit of a wound-up cannon. I wouldn't be surprised if she exploded. I personally, I'm not going to have a bet in the race, but I wouldn't take as big a set against her as you have.
Well, I had to find a lay. Tommy told me I had to, so she might be one that I'm putting in the lay bin. Once again, I have to stay with it. The Cerise and White horses here in Graceful Girl and Stage Man, they'll all be better for their run first up. So look to see a vast improvement in the Danny O'Brien runners in the Cerise and White, because they're a little bit soft going into their first run, and they can come back. Stage Man and Graceful Girl. Graceful Girl, as we've seen before, is a Group 1 winner, so it'll be interesting to watch them there. We go to the Exford Plate, which is race number 9 on the card and the last at Flemington. And this is an interesting one because we're seeing some of these horses here, these 3-year-olds that we might see a little bit later. I've really got it marked down to a couple here in Tijuana and Fajita Sand. The interesting one I wanted to ask you on was Berkeley Square. It gets an awkward draw here from 16. But if you look back at Beat Castilian, that form then gets franked when Castilian's come out and subsequently won since. So I'd be interested to know how you're seeing this one, but more sort of Tijuana Fajita Sand for me.
Yeah, well, firstly on Berkeley Square, he's had a little break staying at 1,400 metres on a Derby path. Staying at 1,400 metres, I was keen on him last start just because he was better than them. Stayed at 1,400 metres was a negative, but for the third time staying at 1,400 metres is a negative, as is the barrier. I'd be against Fajita Sand in this race, number 11. Like, so I'll lay him in the Exford Plate here over 1,400 metres at Flemington. And he missed the kick fresh, so there were excuses at Moonee Valley. But if you have a look at the work through the line, there wasn't much between him and Let's Roll the Dice on the line. That runner gets a 1 kilo weight swing. Tijuana, really good close over 1,200 metres. If we're talking, Jacquinot's now the favourite for the Caulfield Guineas.
Yes,
this horse has burst clear in, some of the fastest late sections of that race over 1,200 metres.
That was in the McNeil.
The McNeil, yeah. So I think that's a good form reference. Aft Cabin in behind had won dominantly the start prior. So I know he's a $6 favourite. It's a very even race, but, for a horse that was slow away as well, you don't want to develop those bad habits early in your career, just where does he get to in the run? I know he ran good times second up at Sandown last preparation, but I thought he was a bit well found.
So no real firm opinion in this
I'll
one?
lay him, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll lay Fajita Sand?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe Tijuana, looking at Tijuana as an option?
Yeah.
As a back option?
Yeah.
Let's go up to Rosehill. What are you expecting with the track there, just briefly at Rosehill before we get stuck into race 7, the Run to the Rose?
Yeah, well, the rail at Rosehill, if I just bring it up here, is 5 metres, sorry, and it'll be a 6 or 7 because there's 10 mils around tomorrow, 2 to 4 mils today, which is Thursday. But a similar meeting on the 31st of July, rail 4 metres and heavy. It was actually quite fair. I'd be expecting it to be fair. I don't think we need to be setting up for any on-speed biases this week.
Yeah, it's been a little bit like that, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Probably the last few weeks. But this is one that I think this is where you come into your own here, Salts. And once again, we're seeing some of these sort of gun 2-year-olds and now coming in as 3-year-olds. Oh, look, Run to the Rose, all of them are on a Golden Rose path. Look, I've taken a big set on Natuno. Tommy would know this and a few others, Dean Elliott. We've got a decent futures price about Natuno in the Golden Rose, and he's a horse that Tony Gollan said all he needs to do is learn how to settle. Hugh Bowman got him to do that last start. He's only going to improve off that. I think with the inside draw here, Hughie's got to maybe just push up, hold a few outside, even if he ends up in the 1-1. Even there's somewhere he can lead, he can do it either way as long as his head's on his chest. Happy to risk a few of these others. In Secret, I'm not sure whether or not was going well enough, and I want your thoughts on In Secret here. But Political Debate's a genuine star. Best of Bordeaux can go better. I mean, this is a really sweet ride. I mean, that was a superb win last start. This is a super, super race.
Oh, it's a cracking race. And In Secret, she's the map horse because if you look at last start, well, Best of Bordeaux, they thought, well, he's going to go better leading. They'll want to find the top from barrier 5. So he goes forward. Natuno, barrier 1. He's done his best work in Queensland when going forward. Swiss Exile has good speed. Sweet Ride has good speed. And all of a sudden, here's In Secret, barrier 3. Just does absolutely no work. Parks in behind him, tracks him and has last shot. If I had to have a bet in the race, it would be her. Fireburn. What are your thoughts on Fireburn? We've got a resuming Golden Slipper winner. Brilliant preparation as a 2-year-old in the autumn on wet tracks. Now, Gary Portelli's made it really well known. She's not a great track worker. So she's been given very, very quiet trials. The latest actually over 1,200 metres, which is interesting. I'm not sold she's going to be able to show up and sprint here fresh with the others having the run under the belt. And at $6, she'd be a lay in the race for me.
The funny thing about Fireburn is you don't really know whether or not she's just a wet tracker. She might just be an out-and-out duck. And then as soon as you start hitting some better horses when you get on top of the ground, then
if this was on a good
heavy
4, you'd lay
her all day
till you ended up in a coffin.
But if it was on a heavy 7 or 8, you could probably go, we might have a nibble because she loves it. But
and she's probably going to get a 6 or a 7, good horse. But I just think that she might get a little bit too detached.
Another quick one I want to mention, Political Debate, massive in the JJ Atkins behind She's a Belter, which is a superb horse. Trials were terrible. Did you go back and have a look at Political Debate? I just think that this is a horse that's got a lot of upside, but gee, they were poor trials.
I'm just waiting for him to get over further. I didn't even bother having a look at how he trialled or anything because I just know that 1,200 is going to be too short for him.
Yep. Let's go to the Theo Marks if we can. Over the 1,300 and we see, some old favourites in Kementari, Colding. Look, ELLSBERG's got a superb first up record. I know you want to talk about that. Mr. Mozart, we had a bit of a chat before we started this in regards to where he's going to get to in the map, and this is where we might be lining up here. The one I did want to mention is also Jamia for the price yard. Good second up record. I think there was a nice run in behind Zapateo, which Vin Cox had mentioned was Godolphin's best anywhere in the country. Zapateo was primed to go then. But Jamia wouldn't surprise me, but I'm sort of leaning towards Mr. Mozart, and I think you are too.
Yeah, I'm going to be getting out my magic flute this Saturday, and I'll be playing it. I've just Googled that that's one of Mozart's most famous compositions, the magic flute. So I'll be blasting that on Saturday as he just...
It's a bit of Ron Burgundy jazz flute.
Yeah, he'll just come over the line. Pikey will... The Wiz will just put his wand in his mouth and just play the magic flute as he just sails on by because his 2 trials have been outstanding. And the big thing for him in those trials is he's ran past ELLSBERG in both of them. The latest was outstanding. He went forward, ELLSBERG, wasn't asked a great deal of, and Mr. Mozart sort of settled off them and extended through the line, but just the ease in which he did it. And if you have a look at the end of his last preparation, Willie Pike got on board. He's 3 from 3 on him, the whiz. But it was once he struck tracks that had some give in him, he went to the next level. And the thing I loved about it was he did it off very slow tempos. He did it off very fast tempos. So he's a really versatile horse. And the map on the weekend, ELLSBERG will roll forward, Prime Candidate will roll forward, and then you just look at Mr. Mozart, and he's just absolutely singing a symphony in behind, just getting the run of the race.
This is the map where you can nearly take the horse on the map before you even go back and look at the trials against it, couldn't you?
Yeah, he just gets that sweet tag to finish off over the top. And what he did figures-wise at the end of the last preparation, if he picks up where he left off, he won't lose.
A lot of people are going to be with ELLSBERG 3 from 3 first up. And when the people see that, they go, oh, well, the horse flies fresh. We have to get on. But
handle's wet.
But the trials just haven't been quite there, have they?
Yeah, well, he's been out-trialled by a horse in the same race. that he's giving 3 kilos to. So it's easy to see why people like him. But if you go and have a look at the work, it's easy to see why you'd side with the orchestra.
If I'm with you, but if they're making a huge amount of ground and like the inside or the first few are off, is that where a horse like Jamea can come into it? I'm trying to make a case here for probably if I have a Tommy 2 play, but
it just looks like one of those maps where it's going to be that horse that gets the drop on the lead. Yeah. Like I don't think they're going to go too hard. Prime Candidate won't want to go too hard because 1,300 metres wet track. If you look at last start, he was really well rated. He actually didn't go too hard. I don't think his MO is going to be to bust them up. I think he'll try and just control evenly, and that'll just give him Mr. Mozart a lovely drop.
Well, everyone out there, if we've aligned here, maybe go and get a price because that mightn't be there in a while, the price of Mr. Mozart. You can get it on Betfair, of course, betfair.com.au. Let's go to the Sherrico over the 1,200. Interesting race this because we see a horse like Palasipan did it extremely well up in Queensland. Bella Nipotina's been proven before in like Group 2 grade. Star Tontes comes out of winning the Tats Tiara, which is a good race. Espiona was a boom horse. Shades of Rose has been destroying them. This could nearly be, I've got one of the best races of the day written down here. This is a ripper.
It's a fascinating race. You're right. In terms of, you talk about how Shades of Rose, she's out of 88 grade. This is a Group 2 for the fillies and mares, set weights and penalties. Now, I don't know that she's really that far in the deep end because if you have a look at some of the horses in this race, Fortuce, wet track, no, not going that well. Electric Girl, wet track, no. My Whisper, first up, gets over further. Palasipan wants further. It's Me, very good horse, but needs to, lift 3.5 lengths off last start in Queensland.
It was surprising that, like, the last start with it, but they had big raps on It's Me a long time ago, didn't they?
Yeah, and she's come back from injury. Yeah. But, Espiona's the class resuming. One soft trial, but Chris Waller's not bringing them to the races, not ready. So she's class, and I'm wary of her. But Shades of Rose just has so much in her favour. Bella Nipotina might be more suited 1,000, 1,100 metres, but Shades of Rose, she's in on the minimum. She has to lose James McDonald because of the 54 kilos. But from that wide barrier, if she'd drawn barrier 5, she's $2.50 in my opinion. So that wide barrier just puts a 3 in front instead of a 2. Probably rolls across, settles outside the leader. You're in on the minimum. You're hard fit. You're staying at 1,200 metres. And you're in form.
Gate 13, no problem for you.
Well, that whole scenario I just spoke about then is, in what world don't you use her up and go forward?
Correct.
So she'll either lead or settle outside the leader. And what she's doing on the clock, dropping in weight now, good luck beating her.
No, like 72 wins by 3.5, 78 wins by 3.5, then goes to an 88 wins by 4.5. You would say that the natural progression is to step up, but you go from an 88 straight to Group 2 grade, which is a lot more pressure. I mean, that's a genuine step up in grade, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But, it's back against her own sex. And like I mentioned, there's quite a few resumers and there's still some horses in this race that, are probably better suited in lower grade as well.
I am going to lay Espiona. And look, Espiona, I actually said about Elation the other week when I laid Elation. Elation had Espiona vibes. A little bit of overhype. They go up in grade 2 quick. You can get on and lay them. Then they're obviously really good horses. But I didn't like the spruik about this horse at the time with Espiona. It was way over the top for what the horse had done and beat. And especially coming here, the first up records, look, it has won first up before. It's unplaced at the track. I know it's only 3 from 6, but I just don't think that off that trial, and especially the one trial in there where Malkovich just went berserk and Lost and Running was in behind it. I just can't believe ESPIONA's $3.40 coming into this.
That's the issue, and I agree with you in terms of the fact that we know Shades of Rose's fit's going to go forward. You're not going to give up that advantage of fitness. So ESPIONA just the one trial. It's not like Waller only trials them once, the stars all the time. Like, Home Affairs jumped out 3 times before he got to the track. Like, they can have more trials than one. So one trial, a high-pressure 1,200 metres, she'd want to be a lot better than them.
I am going to have a nibble on Bella Nipotina here. I've always liked the horse, and I think the horse is well and truly up to this grade. And I mean, I normally put a line through Moonee Valley form, just in general, whether they win, lose, or draw. Completely
You're
put
a
a
hater.
line.
Don't be hating.
No, I don't hate it. What I'm saying is, I don't use Moonee Valley form as a guide. So if they've got 5 runs in the prep,
so Winks is no good.
I'll go off the. No, I'm saying I'll go off the 3 runs that are on the big tracks, not at the Valley, because obviously some grow a leg and some don't like it.
Yeah.
But Bella Nipotina was superb against Maliva, who is a little short track, nippy specialist, and got it done on the 20th. So, and that was off one trial. She's got improvement to come. I think if there's sting out of the ground, you're getting overs there. And look, there's no way I'm not going to have Star Tontes in my quaddie in that race. I know meets it poorly at the weights, but I have to have Star Tontes. You got a horse that won the Group 1 Tats Tiara, especially here in the Sherrico. You've got to take good horses in sometimes these races a little bit under.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's stood up that Queensland form as well, hasn't it? So
with a little bit of residual fitness.
Yeah.
Now, what do you want to go into? Do you want to go into the Washup or a little bit of the education we got to? Well, that's what's the last of the races before we get to our lays and our best bets in a wild salts. But let's talk about the Makybe Diva in 2019. You said before that you remembered this. Gatting takes it out, BSP of $118 Gatting, and it hit 370 in play on Betfair.
It's just one of those ones, like you often have races where the result happens and you sit there, your jaw's dropped. You sit there looking at the screen, you're just like, how has that happened? I just don't get it. Like, I was so keen on Mystic Journey that day. She loomed up and she just didn't get past Gatting. Like, all honest, they brought him over, but it was that price. What was his BSP? $118.
$118.
It was for a bloody good reason.
Yeah, they don't start like that unless they deserve to start like that.
Yeah, so, that was an absolute head scratcher. That was one of the ones that really makes you question your existence in the industry.
Well, here's one that a few people might have questioned their existence. In Mackay, and we're calling this Mackay Madness, race 4 over the 1100, it was a maiden up there on the 6th. The runner was called Blackshaw. BSP, wait for this, $414.83.
Carrie Blackshaw. $418.83.
$414.83. Like, that's mental. Absolutely mental.
Yeah, that's outrageous.
It is outrageous.
Do we know anything about the horse?
I'm not sure, but
or?
They're normally the horses that never win a race ever again.
Yeah. If you finished him behind... you finish him behind Carrie...
What's the highest?
Might be time to go further north.
Yeah, it's a bit. What's the highest you've ever backed one?
51.
51?
Yeah, nothing outrageous.
Yeah, I had only recently. You remember when was it Romancer won at nearly 100s?
Yeah, Flemington straight. Yeah,
I backed Romancer, Romancer that day. Yeah, and so the guys at work had a nice little day. But
Did you get a bit of romance that night? Sure.
Yeah. Look, I might have. Not from the guys at work, mind you. The missus had a shilling on it, so it wasn't too bad. Hey,
that's good.
Let's go into our best back and lays over the weekend. And I know that we've probably seen eye to eye on a couple of different things, but I'll let you kick it away. You're the expert in the star salts. Which way do you want to go for your best backs? Best backs of the weekend.
This is a dual operation, mate.
It is.
This is a dual operation.
I'm filling in for one show.
Yeah. No, I'm the star.
So. I can't wait for the jazz flute when Mozart goes down. I'll wait for the little gif on Twitter.
Well, I'm going up to Sydney, Rosehill, race 4, number 5, Hammer On. Now, he comes out of the midweeks, but he was a dominant winner first up. The win was very classy. He was first up straight to 1550 metres off just one trial. He got a lovely sit in the race, but he just ran past them like they were standing still. The race rated really well. He ran past a horse named Cognac, who won at his next start, and then beat another horse, whose the name escapes me, that then went to Canterbury yesterday and was well backed and absolutely bolted in. So even though it's midweek form, the form around him is stacking up. And I really like the setup. So Hugh Bowman gets on. Hugh Bowman trialled him before he was first up. They claimed down. Hugh Bowman trialled him between runs, but it was on Tuesday just gone. So he's had a trial only a few days ago, and he's come into the track week of. It doesn't happen that often with Chris Waller. He won a 900-metre trial. The time was just fair, but he's a 2,000-metre horse. He's winning 900-metre trials leading. Huey sticks. He maps to either lead or just tag fun facts and finish off. And there's some queries here on some other runners, and I'm just going to play it safe for my lay of the weekend, and I'll just lay the stablemate number 7 Colino, because I just don't think he'll run 1,800 metres. I think Hammer On is the best bet of the weekend, and the stablemate just won't be able to go with him in the final furlong.
It's always nice to lay a horse like in the race where you think you're best because he's going to win, because you're pretty confident.
Well, I'm confident that the horse wins, which means I'm confident that something else is going to lose. Yeah,
I like that.
So I thought he's $5 the stablemate. I thought that's too short.
I haven't dug any deeper, probably, than these ones just as yet. But a kiss on all four cheeks for me in race 7 at Flemington, the Group 2 Let's Elope. I think this horse only improves. We haven't seen the best of her yet. So kiss on all four cheeks is going to be a best bet for me. And a couple of...
Yeah, have you ever had a kiss on all four cheeks?
Well, look, it's a story for another day. So I'm sure it's called something else. Anyway, let's go to our lays. I'm in race 8, number 12, Swatsat. Look, I might be made a bit of a mugger later, Eduardo, last week, and that made me look stupid. But
but that's not a bad lay if you laid it at that price, and then it got to 280.
It got to 280 out, yeah.
Then you can back it at 280, and it's not the worst lay.
No, correct.
So I'd say well played, brother.
Yeah, I just wasn't quick enough on Betfair to go and do it. But that's what you can do on Betfair, mind you.
Exactly.
And the other one's race 9, number 6, ESPIONA. I think, you find a pretty hot field. Does ESPIONA, and I just don't think Ready to Go, that trial didn't do enough for me. So have you got anything else that you wanted to lay or maybe chat about?
No, I'm happy to be against Colino. I know Tommy has put in here, he's quite keen to be against race 8, number 3 at Rosehill, ELLSBERG.
He's laying a horse that's 3 from 3 first up.
Yeah, well, he says got none, and got none, Mr. Mozart wins. And, we've gone on ad nauseum about the composer, Mr. Mozart, but, the magician's going to write him a treat. And if you're very keen on Mr. Mozart winning, well, then, like we said with Rosehill race 4, something's got to bloody lose, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. And look, we've all aligned, and if the three of us are all aligned, it's almost the M word.
If the three of us are aligned, get in the queue.
Yeah, just pay the man. Let's go to our education segment. I know we put a few questions up on Twitter, but we want to continue on the conversation we had about speed maps. And you did send me through one that you built, and I probably want to ask you on this because yours are going to be a lot more technical than mine. But can you just explain to everyone out there that how you go about building them and the levels of assumptions that you have to make in building a speed map?
Yeah, well, for each race you could probably build 4 speed maps, and one of them might be right, because things happen. Horses miss the start, horses go forward when you didn't expect them. Races where there was going to be heaps of tempo, nothing. There's no tempo, and the focus of our chat between Tom and I last week was about tempo. And when I'm building a speed map, that's the numero uno. It's about the tempo of the race and who it's going to suit. But then you can start looking at the different barriers. I know Tom spoke about start points and stuff, but if we just talk about barriers, like for example, if you've got a horse that's drawn barrier 3, right, and there's two underneath it, and you think, okay, well this thing drew 11 last start and went back. Now it's drawn 3. Now it might be forward and off the rail. But then if you do your map and the 2 inside it have better early speed in it, well, then it ends up on the rail.
Yeah, because it literally back the fence.
Yeah, so it can't go anywhere else. So it's about identifying the draw of the horse, but not only the draw of the horse, what the barriers next to them and around them are doing and where the speed's coming from there. Because doing a speed map, it's a little bit like playing Tetris. You move your markers around. So like I use punting form where you can move around the horses and create the speed map. And then I get like early speed figures from from another database as well, and I sort of put them together. But even if you're just starting out, like on your betting apps and stuff, there's pretty basic speed maps where you can sort of just Tetris them around, who's going to end up where, who would lead. If one's got better early speed values and it's drawn inside another one on the outside, well, it's probably going to hold that other one out. So it's just all about moving them around and where they end up. And that's when you can start to map things that are going to end up 2, 3 back on the rail. That's when you can start being against them.
A lot of that you can do on eye too, though, as in you know that a horse it's got gate speed.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see it jumps out early. Yeah. You know that if it's 1 to 4, you know that it's raced against another horse. So the perfect example, just in the last minute or two of the show, Salts, is the Makybe Diva. And you sort of got to look at Cascadian, Western Empire, Alligator Blood. You got to look at them all last start. You're going to get a rough idea. A bit smaller field here, but you mentioned the map a little bit earlier. Your Alligator Blood looks like it's probably going to have to take it up from gate 2. Empire might sit outside.
Yeah.
And then the rest, you sort of stack and rack in behind that.
Well, if it's a slow race, so I've got Cascadian sitting like off the fence last. She's Ideal will be last on the fence, okay? So they're coming into the 600. It's been a slow tempo. Alligator Blood and Western Empire are dueling it out. They're both good horses. Not one of them's rolling off, which means I'm Thunderstruck's rolled in. So the jockey on Cascadian, which is Blake Shin, well, he says, okay, this is a slow tempo. I'm going to go around him. He creates a 3 wide line. All of a sudden, I'm Thunderstruck is 2 inside on the fence with a good horse like Cascadian building revs around him. I think that's why people will be against I'm Thunderstruck, because you can make those moves from back in the field, get your momentum up and go around the field. When you're on the rail, you just can't do that. You're dictated to.
A couple of quick things before the weekend, before we wrap up, is do we need to keep an eye on the weather at both tracks? Which one do you think is going to be more affected if one of them turns sour?
Well, the weather on race day at Rosehill is actually really clear and good. So it just depends what happens on Friday. So I think we're going to know the rating at Rosehill and a potential upgrade. The one is Flemington if rain comes race day. But it's a good drying track. But if rain comes race day, it'll hold that rating if it gets to a 7.
To all the listeners and punters out there, you can also head to the Betfair hub. So go to betfair.com.au/hub for all your education purposes. You can just tweet Salts. He's more than happy to answer any of your tweets at any time on Twitter. Mate, I've thoroughly enjoyed coming in and sitting in here with you for an episode of Layback. I'll make sure I gamble responsibly this weekend, as always, as should you. And I'll look forward to watching again next week when Tommy comes back to fill in.
Have a great weekend, brother. Good luck, punters.
Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.